I woke this morning and it was a slow waking up. When you sense that you're coming to a place that you're not familiar with. And I notice, oh, there's a rooster there. There's a rooster here. And then the weight of the world starts to come in, and you realize what position you're in, what your circumstances are, the role you're playing in these circumstances, the memory of who you were playing in this reality. And when one is raised and spiritually active in mainstream Christian circles, everything about law of attraction, how to create your own reality, that's like all demonic. They don't know anything about it. They don't want to know anything about it. And it's all a lie. Well, for truth seekers, you have to hit that inner bell that rings, oh, that's true. And you get that resonance, then you can mislead them on everything else. So a lot of what is in the New Age movement and misleading spiritual and religious circles, it's going to have an element of truth to it. And the laws of the universe, the laws of attraction, of embodiment, and all of that, they were just things that humanity was not ready to understand. It wasn't, you don't teach a kindergarten advanced biology in how babies are made. You keep it simple. You keep it appropriate to their cognitive development. So humanity was warned away from this tree of knowledge of good and evil, the laws of the universe and all of that, because humanity was brand new, fresh in the garden. They were created outside of the garden. Adam was brought in first, and then after a certain amount of time, that is the equivalent of giving birth to a female child, then Eve was brought in to the Garden of Eden. So Adam and Eve were created outside the garden, and then were introduced into the garden. Enoch was given a greater vision of how things work. Noah was given knowledge of healing herbs and medicines to fight against the demonic influence on his people. So we have to know a certain amount of these things in order to stay faithful. And so, of course, I know about the law of attraction, that our universe is very magnetic and electric. And I've been privy to, for example, God's plan for me to move me out of a certain area. And I'm just like, no Christian on earth is going to believe that this is from God. But we read about the woman whose husbands died, left her childless, and her father-in-law had promised her that she would be married to the youngest son, and he kept the son away, thinking she was cursed. Now imagine the Creator inspiring you to go be intimate and bear a child for a man who doesn't want anything to do with you because he thinks you're cursed, and to go about it as if you're a prostitute, to lower your vibration with deceit and sexual luring so that you could become vibrationally equivalent with a man to accomplish God's purpose, which was this child, by which he then continued the bloodline he was trying to keep established to fulfill his promises to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So now, once we're in that deep of our understanding with God, for example, for like a month, I lost feeling in two of these fingers for a few days, and then this one started working somewhat again. But it turns out I have neuropathy, and I don't have full use of this hand. Where is this coming from? What? I started eating healthier, exercising, getting rid of bad habits, and the circumstances that the Creator was putting me in the spring. Every spring I have an experience of a foreknowing of what's coming for me over the summer. And this one was, I was being moved out of a place, and then a dome was placed over it, and the hand of God placed on top of it, and then poof. So I knew that I was leaving my circumstances, and that the circumstances I was leaving behind, that there was going to be a destructive element to it, which is normally a wake-up call. Like, what are we doing here? Is there an afterlife? Is there a God? And so it's an opportunity for people to turn around. But the circumstances I'm coming into, the only vibrational equivalent, because mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, I was not a match for these circumstances. But physically, it turns out the person here suffers from neuropathy. So, if there are physical ailments, you're wondering, I'm in this great spiritual place and I'm close to God, but I have this one thing that's really a problem. An addiction. You smoke. Too much coffee. That is the magnet, the vibrational equivalent to where you're going to serve. And that's why, if you're done serving in those circles, that issue's gone. But why would... We've been redeemed. We shouldn't be dying. This is everlasting life. If we're redeemed, we're redeemed. We shouldn't be suffering the consequences and results of original sin. And every year, when you go and you repent, God forgives, and you're redeemed. But year after year, day after day, anything that comes into my mind that I have to repent for, We're repenting for things God gave us to do so that we would be a vibrational equivalent to people, so that we can bring His love to a situation. We can testify against the situation. We can witness to the people in the situation. It's totally different than how we're raised to believe. And then I'm sitting there, somebody's talking about Burning Man. I'm like, yeah, they have another equivalent here. And you could see all over the world these places where there are smaller versions. There's the Burning Man version. Then there's the Bohemian Grove version. And all the street kids that come out of the foster care, the neglectful homes, and all of that, they suffer abuse so that they're disassociated and then become sleeper agents for Satan. So these kids, they have no idea why they're unloved. They're absolutely homeless. They say things like, oh, we are trash, we are trash. I eat my own poop. Yeah. And then they do things like they're called into a situation, another personality is triggered, they go do something, and they have no idea that they did that. Or somebody will say that they did that, and, oh, no, I wouldn't do that. Oh, like, but they're moved from town to town. So if you watch the homeless population, the network, so in Southern California, you've got Slab City, they have Burning Van. They have a rave every spring for 3 days. They set a car on fire, and it's not a van, so they don't call that Burning Van. But when it is a van, it's a burning van, and it's a special event. But they push a burning vehicle down a hill. The next day, once the fire's out, they add it to Carhenge, which is a circle of vehicles that have been burnt throughout the years. And so you see it. Salvation Mountain, where this rave is held right next to, it draws Christians from all over the world. They donate from all over the world. The people running it, from the man who lives there and is supposed to be maintaining it, to the people who oversee the board members, they sing on Saturday night, Hail Satan, up in the slabs at the range. And then there's East Jesus, which is a hippie term for in the middle of nowhere, where the art structures are, mutilated dolls, doors that lead to nowhere, and all kinds of stuff. So the whole thing, Christians come from all over the world, donations. That's a meth ring. That whole Southern California, Slab City, that is under cartel control. And then you have the hippie faction, the street kids, the rainbow kids, dirty kids. Those are the lowest echelons of this network that covers the entire globe, like every aspect of society. The days of Noah, where there's one person and his family that are deemed righteous, this is not an exaggeration. There is the prophet who was sent by God to Jezebel and her husband, and he was alone, he was isolated, and he was told by God, I have a remnant of 7,000 left in Israel. But when he was not prophesying to Jezebel and her husband, was he brought to those 7,000? No. He was brought to an isolated widow who was about to prepare her last meal for her and her son, and performed miracles to keep the flour and the oil continuing. He had this prophet fed by ravens that would bring him food every day alone. He wasn't brought with to the remnant. It was not, no, he was in resonance, in depression, in lamentation. He was just vibrationally, he was not put in a place where he could rejoice and have companionship and then go off and preach a mighty message and then go back to this comfort. No, he had to be kept in such a low vibrational state that he could actually connect with that evil place and those people doing those evil acts. I mean, don't forget, these, like Jezebel and all those practices, they were sacrificing people. You can't be brought into a place that's sacrificing people and based on fear and terror, where they can, feed off the adrenochrome and then the energy vampires feeding off of that. You can't reach that place. You can't touch it. God's presence cannot be there in its purest form. So you have to be brought low in order to get in there. And that's why all the prophets end up lamenting the day that they were born. They have to be put in that state. And so I'm reminded of this, and this is driven home to me. When I wake up, I'm in the process of waking up, I come from a state of being that is just completely without fear. And it's not like lightheaded, oh, where am I going? No, it's just a comfortable, okay, time to wake up and see what's in store. Like, what am I supposed to be into today? What am I being woken for? Basically, I'm dead. When I sleep, I sleep like death. Peace. God will interfere with dreams, instructions, and then I wake up and it's like, oh, why am I? Now I know. Now I understand what's going on. And so late in the game to understand this. But I do remember the reason why we don't remember these things when we're coming into this reality is so that, number one, our reactions or responses are authentic. Because demons can smell agenda and purpose a mile away. They know. It's like you wear the vibrational signal on you, like it goes before you. And we're not gonna, our soul is righteous. We're not gonna go play the prostitute of our own free will. We're not gonna say, oh yeah, no problem, I'll go make myself out to be a whore and put my kids in danger so the state will come after me and take my kids away or want to. And this is why we aren't given foreknowledge. And I learned that why we don't want to change what we're given in foreknowledge. Because I was like 8 months pregnant. My husband's gone off to work, and I get this foreknowing. Something's going to happen at work, like an explosion, and he's going to die. And I'm just praying that it doesn't happen. Oh my goodness, what am I going to do? How am I going to take care of myself? Oh my God, I got a baby on the way. Please change this, please, I should have, I could have taken the insurance money and lived comfortably. That didn't even enter my mind. But he comes home, there was an explosion at work, and it just missed him, and he was okay. But then he kidnapped my daughter, moved away, and it took me 4 years to locate her. I wouldn't have suffered that if I had just let God have his way and put me in circumstances where I didn't have to rely on a man and I could be comfortable and raise my children to be spiritually okay. And instead, my child was taken. What he did was he moved away from me, and so I had to get in other circumstances, and he took my daughter, quit his job. Him, his mother, his father, his brother, they all picked up and moved with no forwarding address. He always wished that he was a girl because his mother always wanted a daughter. Well, he finally had a daughter to give his mother, and that daughter was mine. So, this is why it's not always good to know ahead of time what God has in store for us. I'm not gonna sneeze. I've been my nose lately. Ugh. My sense of smell and my sense of taste and everything is coming back after many years. So, like, my nose is extra irritated. So, yeah. If you're suffering and if you're alone, it's because that is the only way God can get you to where He wants you. Like, if you're in a really dangerous situation, sometimes you gotta get at a vibrational level to match where you can move out of that situation. And then you can change your vibrational level, and they can't pull you back. They can't follow you. So, like with the Israelites leaving Egypt at that river, they had to be at a certain spiritual state to cross that river through that miracle. And then they had to reach a certain state so that that river could fall and the Egyptians couldn't continue to follow them. They had to come out of that spiritual state. And so that's why the feast, that's why, like, and think about that. Saturday, anybody who follows Torah, mainstream version of Torah, their Shabbat is Friday night through Saturday till sundown on Saturday. But that, I thought I was like being weird and different because I started doing the Shabbat, you know, on the 7th day after a festival. I didn't keep the Shabbat on the Friday to Saturday regardless of the feast. From the feast, you don't work more than 7 days. So, 6 days. And then you rest. So my Shabbat right now is Tuesday sundown to Wednesday sundown. So whose Shabbat are they celebrating when they keep it Friday sundown to Saturday sundown? Whose high Shabbat are they celebrating when they celebrate a Shabbat during a feast? Well, who would have to have their own Shabbat to mimic God's kingdom? Because they want to be the one on the throne. That is the one. Like, wow. Crazy. So there you have it. Why you may be suffering when you think you shouldn't be, like it doesn't make sense because you're doing everything you're supposed to do. And energy, laws, they are governing this matrix, this creation, this reality. But don't forget, our Creator is outside of reality that we call reality, outside of creation, looking in and can affect it. It's got a broader picture. And we can trust that picture instead of trying to memorize all of the laws of how to create, how to get what we want, how to move about in this reality. No, the best perspective is the one on the outside looking in. And so that's why you rely on the Creator. You respect the Torah. And any change, whether you're having a really great day so you can bump into somebody here, or whether you are low as can be so that you can be moved about through these low places, don't take it personal. Don't think, oh, I need to change it. Just trust our Creator, especially during these times. It's just like everything's out in the open. Everything's like their agenda, their plan. It's awful. So just trust that if you're lamenting one day, lament away. Allow it to be. Creator has you there for a reason. And if you lose use of one hand, it's so that you can be brought and connect with someone who you can't connect with on any other level. So, I am where I am for a reason. And I suffer what I suffer for a purpose, for God's purpose. So God's will can be done and accomplished in me and around me. I hope that helps.